What's up, guys? Welcome to Gamescript. And if you watched Monday's episode, you had some success with Xavier Worthy and probably made some money. Tonight, we got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Green Bay Packers. They're playing in Brazil. It's a 49.5-point total with Philadelphia as 2.5-point favorites. And I think that we can find another couple guys just like Xavier Worthy on Monday, or that I called on Monday for last night's game, that can crush tonight. So let's take a look right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. On today's episode, as I mentioned, we're going to be breaking down the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Green Bay Packers playing in Brazil. And today I'm joined by my friend Spread Astaire. He's going to help us break down this game. Spread, what's going on, man?
Simon, I wanted to thank you for inviting me on what could potentially be the toughest showdown slate of the year. It's an international game. The players have been just holed up in their hotels, afraid to travel. None of them brought their families with them. It's not like the vacation when they go to London or they go to Germany. And then just to throw a little more variance in there, it's in the middle of wildfire season down there in Brazil, so they could have a really smoky field. But in spite of all that, we're going to persevere through just like these players, and we're going to find some winners tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were getting a lot of caution earlier in the week, potential like game getting canceled type of caution with these wildfires and how they're going to affect the air quality at the stadium. But apparently nothing has been canceled. The NFL has shown no indication that the game would get canceled. And it looks like we're going to be good to go for tonight. But it'll be interesting to see how, like that smoke affects how the game plays out tonight. Spread. Do you think it's going to have any type of an impact, or what do you think there?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's helping me actually set up this game script that we're going to write right now, as I expect to see a lot of running the football. I think it's going to be a get in and get out type of attitude from both coaches. Maybe a silent agreement to let that clock run and get back to America, a little bit of safety and a little bit of fresh air.
Well, if you watched last year's episodes, we did a lot of the European games, Spread and I covering a lot of Jacksonville in London in particular, but a lot of these international games we had a lot of success on just by looking at, like team tendencies with international travel and stuff like that. And we did really well with those shows. I think some of our best calls came from those shows, actually. So we'll hopefully be able to give you guys some good calls on tonight's game as well. Make sure to hit the like button. Looking for about 20, 30 likes to trigger the shorter video for later on today, where I can break down, my favorite 4 plays on a YouTube short. So make sure to hit that like button, get us those 20 likes, subscribe to the channel too. Thank you to everybody who subscribed over the past week or so. I've gotten about 20% increase in subscribers, so I appreciate that. Record views on the Chiefs game script episode. Had about 3,000 views on that. So I appreciate everybody to help with supporting that and watching the show. And hopefully we continue that success with this episode. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a fun game to break down. And I think that we can give you guys some nuggets that you can use to help you out with your showdown games tonight. If there's anything that I hope you guys picked up on with the Thursday night show, is that Xavier Worthy was wheels up, and he was going to give you a great opportunity for potential low ownership. I was expecting him to be lower owned than he came in. He ended up being about 8% in the captain. I was projecting probably closer to 5 or 6%, but that's okay. He ended up smashing anyways. But unfortunately, Isaiah Likely came in and actually, crushed too. So he took away some of the momentum there. But we were high. I was also high on Likely, not as high as some of these other plays. But let's dig into this one, Spread. We got, as I mentioned, 49.5 point total with Philadelphia as 2.5 point favorites. Spread, why don't you give me your breakdown on this game before we dig into player by player?
Like I said, I think this is a tough game. So we already talked about the challenges in handicapping it, being on the neutral field. So I'll just revert to how I'd be handicapping this game if we played it in the States, and we can see how it works for that. Now, two teams that we're both kind of high on coming into this year, right? You've talked before, and I agreed with you about the coaching problems in Philadelphia, but they seem to address both of those, especially on the defensive side on the ball. I love the addition of Vic Fangio to that Philadelphia defensive unit. And then, of course, Kellen Moore should be better than what they had on the offensive side last year. On the Packers side, they really seemed to come together last year. And can they ride that momentum from the end of the season last year into this season? In my mind, there's no reason to expect that they will not. I did not get enough Jordan Love as I should have during the best ball season, so I can potentially replicate that tonight. However, I do think that it's going to be a pretty run-heavy game. I think there will be a lot of running backs involved, so it'll be interesting to see how we fill this out. Just off the strength of the defense, I kind of do like Philadelphia here. They are 2-point favorites. The betting market has thought that was too much. The game opened at 3. It's down to 2. Green Bay's taking money from respected bettors. And I can understand why, when a game with so many variables, why would you not put some points in your back pocket? But we know the difference between 3 and 2 in betting is just a Grand Canyon-sized golf. So, if you miss the 3, I think you're a little late to the party. If you like Green Bay, maybe watch that one live. I would not be against a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs captain to start. And I think the big question is, do you play a quarterback, or do you just go completely crazy here and fade the QBs? How are you approaching it?
I'm probably not going to fade the QBs. I think it'll play probably a little bit different than you think their spread. I think that the run game is going to play a big role, but I don't think that they're going to shy too much away from the passing game. Like, although it'll be interesting, like, to see how that smoke affects the game, and maybe we keep an eye on, like, reports on that leading into the game, and maybe closer to the game we'll get a better idea of what the beat writers are thinking and stuff like that.
And you're not going to be able to check X or Twitter because it's banned.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
You're going to have to go to Reddit.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting game. That could be an advantage for us, Spread. Like if not a lot of people are onto that. Why don't you give me a little bit of more information on the X ban there? I know like Elon had something going on with the I guess the president of Brazil, where they were going back and forth, and there was some sort of they were trying to ban like free speech or something like that, and Twitter was going to be affected by that. But yeah, it's very interesting with a lot of that information coming from Twitter. But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I can't add much more, but I think that it kind of hurts us as DFS players and bettors, because I am used to getting that information. I get a lot of good stuff from Twitter during the game. I like to, like last night, have my eyes on the game, and I just love checking the timeline at halftime. There's so many guys that played, that know the X's and O's better than me, that are pointing out things that I didn't see watching that I'm aware of now in the second half. So overall, it kind of detracts from my viewing experience. However, we can't take advantage, because how many other players are doing this? How many other players are relying on Twitter? We do it on Sunday too, right? We're looking at that post-game report or the pregame report. For example, moving into Sunday slate, we're going to be checking Twitter to see if T. Higgins is out there. Because if he's not, then Yoshi Bastos is a smash, right? And that's just something that we're used to doing. So it does change the way things work. So I told you that I lean the Eagles, but I don't love the play. I actually do not have a bet in for tonight, and I do have a pretty loaded Sunday card. So I think that says a lot, because I know that some people are afraid to bet early in the season. However, I do believe, since I do trust my ability to make numbers, that this is actually the time the market is the most inefficient. I think as the season goes on, from a betting perspective, the market gets more and more efficient. as people are able to use this year's statistics and not necessarily projections from player moves in the offseason. So I'm not one to shy away from these early season bets. However, I thought this one was tough to get involved with. So I think we should do what we've done every single time this year. And let's build a script for both teams. Do you have an idea of who you think will be the popular team? A lot of times when we do this, we have a 7-point favorite. We know that everyone's going to be loading up on the favorite build, and we can build an underdog build here. On this one, I think the ownership's going to be spread a little more evenly. But if you had to take a stand, you had to make a call, who do you like winning here tonight? And let's start building a script for that team's victory.
So this is an interesting season for the Eagles. Last year, I'm an Eagles fan for those of you who are new watching. So I followed the Eagles, pretty closely. Last year, I was not high on the Eagles at all heading into the season. I thought that, Nick Sirianni is a goofball, and he lost his two coordinating producers. He lost his two coordinators, and, that was going to negatively impact the team in general, because I felt like those coordinators that he had both went on to be head coaches. They were really good at what they did, and they really were the driving force as far as the coaching staff behind the team's success. So last year, when they lost those two coordinators and they were stuck with, they just promoting from within guys that were far down on the chart as far as potential coordinators. It just looked bad in general. And then Sirianni, I didn't think that he was really going to be able to hold it together. But now this year, they bring in two experienced coordinators, which is great for the Eagles. They bring in Kellen Moore of Dallas and Chargers fame. And they bring in Vic Fangio, who's a legendary defensive coordinator. So they have two solid coordinators this year. The question is, how quickly are they going to be able to adapt to those coordinators? And Vic Fangio, there's typically a lag in adapting to his defense with defensive players. Last year, there was a lag with Miami getting off to a slower start on their defense. But once they started picking up the scheme, they did fine after that. But I think injuries kind of hurt them towards the end of the season. But Fangio is a great coordinator, but I don't think that his defense is going to click right away. And so I think my lean would be maybe towards the Eagles, but I think it's completely possible for the Packers to come in here and take this, especially if they go a little bit more to the air instead of relying more on the run. But what are your thoughts on those coordinator changes? Spread, did they affect your thinking at all on your lean?
I think Fangio's got a lot more to work with than he did last year, and I think you're really going to see some of his best work this season. Great point, though. We are only handicapping one game. This isn't a best ball show. We're not doing the full year, so we will keep that in mind. But let's start with an Eagles script then, okay?
Sure.
Is Saquon too expensive to start with?
No, I don't think so. He is expensive, like in the captain option, but I think as a flex at 9,400, I don't mind him there.
So do you like him as captain, or do you want to run someone else as captain?
I don't hate him as captain, but I kind of lean towards the passing game. But if we're doing Spread's take on this, Spread, do you want to put Barkley in the captain?
Let's see how it works out, and we'll reserve the right to change it if we don't have enough money left. Saquon is what, the fourth highest player on here? I put him in. I only got 35.9 left.
Yep.
But we'll continue down. If we want to go all in on mine for our very first build, we run it back with little Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
And my other Green Bay run back, I would like to run with Romeo Doubs. So I've got three right there. Doubs to me has a big upside. He's a boomer bust guy, but we're going for first place, and so we're going for the boom there. So now I've got my two Packers in there. Help me out here. Three Eagles to fill out this lineup with 20,900 left. Who should we be targeting here? Because obviously we can't pay up for everybody.
So last year, the Packers primarily ran zone coverage schemes, and that would generally favor Devontae Smith, I think, over AJ Brown as far as a receiving option. But this year they have a new defensive coordinator who is a little bit more aggressive. So if they come out using more man coverage, then that would benefit AJ Brown. So it's kind of what do we project is going to happen with, I believe his name is Jeff Hanley, the new defensive coordinator over there. If we think that he's going to come in and start using more man coverage, then I like AJ Brown, and I think I prefer to go Devontae Smith in zone coverage, but I really think that there's a potential here to go heavier with man coverage, which would put AJ Brown, as a higher option. But he's also going to have more ownership, which is why I don't like it as much.
Let me give you some quick tidbits here on new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. He came from Boston College. He ran a 4-3 defense, similar to what the Jets run, because the last time Hafley was in the NFL, he was a defensive back coach under Robert Saleh. So kind of think about some of those Jet schemes. He has ran a 3-4, though. He did that at Ohio State. But I'm pretty sure they're running the 4-3 this year. I'm trying to find some stuff about whether or not they want to use the zone. Yeah. But anyways, I'm thinking it's going to look a lot like Saleh. If it does, that is a lot of man coverage.
Okay.
And what they also like to do is they like to get pressure with simply their front four. So you might see man on the outside with the linebackers playing zone. So a little bit of hybrid. But basically, to sum it up, I think that you maybe AJ Brown does have a better opportunity here. The problem is cost. I mean, if we've already looked at Saquon, we don't have much left here if we put AJ in there.
Well, let's plug them in for now. Now, Hurts also, you just mentioned blitz. Like Hurts plays very poorly against the blitz too. So like that's interesting too. Here, let's get Brown there.
But he doesn't blitz a lot. He tries to get pressure with his front four.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it'll be a lower blitz percent ratio.
That might be good. That might be even better for Hurts and Brown in that case. So if we got Brown in there right now, we're at 9,900 for remaining 2 spots total.
On an Eagles build here, I go Eagles defense and Goddard.
Eagles defense and Goddard. Okay.
Yeah. So
if you put Eagles D in there, it leaves you with 5,900. That gives you that Goddard option that Spread was talking about. So that's like a decent build. The only thing, we don't have any quarterback representation in there, but if it plays out like Spread's anticipating, where they're trying to just like run the time out of this game and get out of there, which makes a lot of sense. They both teams flew in on Wednesday for this game, and both teams were told as soon as they got to the hotels, don't leave the hotels. So apparently, it's super shady out there. And these guys have been locked in their hotels. They're probably miserable, looking to get out of there. I think that makes a lot of sense from that standpoint that Spread's talking about, in addition to those wildfires that we're dealing with. So, like one thing that I wanted to try out, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty throughout this entire season on this Green Bay passing game, because they got so many weapons to pass to that is very difficult to, like decide who's going to have the biggest game, right? And if you look at some of last year's numbers, the Eagles gave up the most points to the slot receiver in the entire NFL, fantasy points. They gave up 24.6 fantasy points a game to the slot. So that makes me like Jayden Reed a lot. And Jayden Reed is down here at $6,400 Spread.
Isn't that weird seeing him lower than Doubs when in best ball Jayden Reed was going around pick 45 and Doubs was going around pick 95?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So I like Jayden Reed, and Jayden Reed with this uncertainty in the passing game for these Packers, he's coming in at a super low ownership, probably lower than he should be based on last year's performance that he had. Like the projections that I saw, he's under 6%. So that really makes me like him based on his price, based on what this Philly defense has given up to slot receivers, and like just the uncertainty surrounding it. So if we lock in Reed there, my next guy that I like was going to be Devontae Smith, but if we think that they're going to be favoring more playing a lot more man, that puts AJ Brown more in place. But let's go down a little bit here, because I like Christian Watson a lot here, Spread. And this is a nugget that I read in Rich Rebar's article for Sharp Football Analysis. I recommend checking it out for everybody. I believe it's free this week. But he put in a nugget like Christian Watson has been having a lot of trouble with keeping healthy. And he went to some sort of a sports medicine expert over the offseason, and they did a test on his hamstrings. And according to Rebar, he was 20% stronger in one hamstring rather than the other. And so they did a lot of work to kind of even out those hamstrings to help him prevent, those injuries. And he got closer to now he's like under 10%, stronger in one versus the other, which should help him, stay healthy. But when Christian Watson is on the field, they are targeting him at, something like a 25% rate, including more targets in the end zone. And when Watson's off the field, they target Doubs more in the end zone. But if they're targeting Christian Watson more in the end zone, and we're looking at Watson here at 5,600, he's their other cheap guy. Look at him compared to Doubs. He's like 1,200 less than Doubs. He's even cheaper than Reed. But if we get Watson in here, I'm going to want to get Love in here too, since I have two receivers at this point. That's going to leave us with 8,300 per remaining spot. If we're looking now at the Eagles, and let's say spread is right and they want to run the ball more, let's put Barkley in there at 9,400. That's going to leave us 7,800 per remaining spot. So we could go a little bit further. We could put Jacobs in there too. But although we do have this passing game, let's put Brown in there. That leaves us with 4,600. That's going to leave us with options like Musgrave, both the kickers, both the defenses, Jahan Dotson. We got a lot of options here. And that's why I like going with this kind of, cheaper captain option. Going to be a lower owned captain. This is going to be us going with this passing game that I was talking about at the top to kind of conflict with, Spread's projection of going more run heavy. But we do have running back representation in there with Barkley. We got him in there over Jalen Hurts. Let's say that, this defense that Green Bay uses is going to affect Hurts negatively. And on top of that, Barkley, maybe they go away from the tush push a little bit more this year with Kelsey being gone, and Barkley gets an opportunity to run a little bit more in the red zone. So that would give Barkley a lot of opportunity there. We got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. We've seen the success that running backs have had with him before. Last year, Eckler did not have a lot of success, but Eckler also got hurt really early in the season. I think a lot of people forget about that. Like Eckler had a high ankle sprain very early in the season, and these running backs never come back quickly from high ankle sprains. And so that, I think, negatively impacted the run game for the Chargers last year. And then on top of getting guys like both receivers got hurt. Keenan Allen was healthy for most of the season, but Mike Williams got hurt, and he was out for a majority of the season, almost all of the season, basically. So their entire game plan going into last season was negatively impacted by injuries, like right off the bat, which really didn't give them a chance to implement, the plan that they had for the season. But I think Kellen Moore gets a fresh start here in Philadelphia, and I think we're going to see a little bit more what we saw from Dallas's offense.
These Packers receivers are tough, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just building it out with this Jayden Reed captain, and I never like where I land at the end.
Yeah. Do you think he's too expensive? Because you can also plug if you wanted to.
You just end up in the Packers receivers range.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's not a lot of good run backs in that little range. Like I'm always ending up between 5 and 7K, and then it's just like, well, do I want Goddard in every lineup? I don't know how much targets he's really going to get.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing too, because Philly was obviously susceptible deep last year too. Mm-hmm. If we wanted to take Reed out and put Watson in, we've seen Watson's upside.
Okay, he's the guy. Let's see how this builds out.
He's the guy that they're going to target. I want to get Reed in there because what I said with the whole points allowed. This puts us in Elliott range. We could add Elliott in here, which would make sense with Barkley and Brown and not having Jalen Hurts in there, because if Jalen Hurts isn't scoring touchdowns, it's Barkley scoring touchdowns and it's Elliott scoring field goals, and maybe Brown is racking up PPR points. That would justify not having Jalen Hurts in the game in our lineup. But also, we still have a quarterback representation because we got Love in there with 2 receivers, right?
I did kind of like that, where you land on Elliott.
Yeah. I like Elliott in this situation too. And that gives us a 3-3 build, but I'm not really concerned about 3-3, 4-2, all that kind of stuff, especially in the first week of the season, because we just don't know how teams are going to play yet. We're all just kind of grasping at straws here. We know that all the change for coordinators for both teams. We've had some changes at running back. Running back situations look completely different for both teams. So there's a lot of different looks on these teams, and I think that it'll be really interesting seeing how this game plays out. But I think you take advantage of the uncertainty, and I think the uncertainty lies with these receivers on Green Bay's side. And you guys watching might not agree with the direction here. You might want to go with Doubs as the captain and switch up a little bit. My strongest stance is on Jayden Reed, though. He's my favorite play on the slate, and he's the guy that I'm going to have like a ton of exposure to.
All right, that sounds like fun. Also taking advantage of that slot thing. If you want to go real top heavy, Bo Melton at 1,200, not a bad deal.
Yep, Bo Melton. He showed a lot of flashes last year. What was that game? He had 25.5 points against Minnesota. That's when he got slotted in as a starter. We also got Dontayvian Wicks. We can't forget about Dontayvian Wicks. If you wanted to use, let's put Jayden Reed back in that captain here for a second, Spread.
Okay.
If we wanted to put in Wicks as our deep ball guy, that leaves us with 4,800. Really the same situation, except we got Musgrave as an option. We could do something like, if we wanted to take out Brown, let's play around with this for a minute. Let's put Watson back in there. Let's see what can happen if we can swap out Brown for Smith. Let's say maybe they go a little bit more zone coverage, although we do think that it's going to be more man. Let's get who did I take out? Oh, Jayden Reed. Let's get Reed back in there. Let's take Brown out. Let's get Smith in there. That leaves us with 7K. That point, you're getting Doubs, who, I don't want to put in another receiver from Green Bay if we got one in the captain already. And we already got Jayden Reed in there as well. We got Goddard as the option. We got, like Wicks, as I just said. Elliott, that leaves us with even more options with
that's kind of a fun start, and then you can just cycle those little 5K guys.
Yeah, but that's an option too. But Spread, you want to try anything else here?
No, I got some nice little ones in. Let me show you the ones I put in.
Yeah.
So Off that last one that we were talking about, I had Jayden, Jordan,
Jayden
Saquon.
captain?
I went Devontae instead of AJ just because I wanted some more money. Although I guess I could. Could I afford AJ in this bill? I could afford AJ. Actually, let me just redo that. Okay, so you can go Jayden, Jalen, Jordan. Wait, where did that one end up? Yeah. Jayden, AJ, Jordan, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Bo Melton. I think that's pretty even. And you're assuming Jalen Hurts doesn't run very much in that build.
Yeah. So we got Brown, we got Jayden, Jordan, Barkley, Brown,
AJ, Josh Jacobs, and Bo Melton.
Jacobs and Milton. Yep. I like that too. Yeah.
It's pretty even.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's the beauty of having, like, if we dig into, let's dig into real quick these cheap guys, because I think there's a lot of potential cheap guys that we can keep in our player pool for this game. If we're going underneath that Packers D, we got Jahan Dotson. Obviously came over from Washington. He wasn't playing very well last year after a decent rookie season. And, they just basically cut ties on him, and Philly ended up picking him up. I think it was a trade. And, usually you don't see those in-division trades, but Washington was down enough on Jahan Dotson that they traded him. But maybe Dotson wasn't happy in Washington. Washington's a miserable place to play. Like, there's a lot of people who do not like playing there. So I think it makes complete sense. We got Wilson here. This is going to be a status that we want to keep an eye on, because he's basically the only backup to Josh Jacobs right now with Marshawn.
Well, I see Lloyd is questionable.
Yeah. Is he on the more doubtful side of questionable? Do you know?
I thought he was trending towards playing.
Okay. If he's playing, then that's interesting as a cheap play. But if he's got hamstring issues already and he's a rookie, I might shy away there. But Emmanuel Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not going to play him this week.
Yeah, Emmanuel Wilson, I'd be more prone to play. He's got a hip injury listed as questionable. That'd be one to keep an eye on his status, because if Wilson is the main backup, they're not going to want to run Lloyd with a hamstring injury and further that injury if they don't have to. So Wilson would be interesting there. Will Shipley is the new rookie running back on Philadelphia. When Meg and I were drafting some best balls together, we were talking about Will Shipley. Unfortunately, he ended up on Philadelphia, but he's a good player. He's just in a bad spot, especially playing behind Saquon. But he could be interesting at 2K. Depending on, we have to see how much they use him, because we got too much of a jumble there with Saquon, and we got what's his face still, Kenny Gainwell. Then we got Wilson. Who's Wilson here? Johnny Wilson. Never heard of him. I guess he's like a rookie for Philly, so I'm not really interested there. Melton, as Spread had mentioned, Calcaterra, not really interested there. Yeah, I don't see anyone else in the dumpster dive here, Spread. Are you seeing any names that pop to you?
The only one I'm really dumpster diving for is Bo Melton.
Yeah, that makes sense. Melton's shown that flash before, and he's another weapon on the deep Green Bay receiver core. So, yeah, reminder, guys, hit that like button. Get us to 30 likes so we can put out that shorter video later on. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Looking for 700 subscribers there. I'm up to 630 or so, so help me out there. And also sign up for Underdog. Use the promo code SEEK. They're doing a crazy deposit match. They're doing up to $1,000 on a 50% deposit match. So if you deposit $2,000, they're going to give you $1,000 using the promo code SEEK. If you only play best ball, just deposit the money now. And get your deposit bonuses for new depositors, by the way. Get that deposit bonus, and then when playoff best ball comes around, you'll have that money in there. But if you like pick'ems and stuff like that, they're doing all sorts of innovative stuff with Underdog pick'ems this year. They got all sorts of new rules and stuff. They protect you against vulturing and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff that we haven't seen before. that really play to the advantage of the customer, or at least more towards the advantage of the customer than competitors. So, Spread, where can they find your most recent content, and where can they can watch you right now?
Yeah, unless you're in Brazil, check me out on Twitter/X at Spread Astaire. I've been just doing a ton. Tyler and I do a preview show over on FanSpeak on Tuesday. We'll do a review show on Monday. I do the wagering world with 5 Star in Vegas and Casino Royale Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I just finished recording that right before I came on. So you can check that out as well. So we're continuing to pump out content. Also, I'm writing articles for Nuke the House. And I finally got my favorite one, Simon. As long as I've been writing, I've been assigned my topics from the editors and executed those. I feel like I do a great job. But Holden and Keg have allowed me to kind of write my own free-form article. I called it This Week in Gambling, but we're going to switch it to This Week in Sports Betting. That's going to come out every Wednesday morning. And it's fun because I just get to, there's no assignment. I just need to give you whatever my thoughts are. If I have a lot to say, it's a long article. If I don't have anything to say that week, it'll be a short article. But I just delve into certain topics and just kind of have some fun and riff about what I've seen during the week. So I've got plenty of sports betting content coming out, plenty of fantasy best ball content as well. Of course, we know best ball's winding down, but as we just noticed, we have these single week best ball tournaments. Underdog has better battle royale, and DraftKings just calls it best ball for week 2. So we'll continue to pump that out, and that way we continue to use all that studying we did all summer to continue to make money off it right now.
Yep, and Spread is really good with writing these articles, and if you can get his weekly thoughts on Wednesdays, you said, Spread?
Yeah, it should be out every Wednesday morning on Nuke the House. Yeah,
definitely check out Nuke the House. Friends of ours over here. And Keg, I was in contact with him, and I'm going to try to get him on a show here coming up. He's really good at breaking down games, as we know from past working with Spread at different companies. So I definitely love Spread's content, Keg's content. All those guys are great over at Nuke the House. So make sure to check those guys out. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll put out a shorter video a little bit later, probably closer to, maybe 4 p.m. Eastern. Let's shoot for that. So get me to those 30 likes and we'll get that out. And thanks, guys. We'll see you guys next time.